Some punk stars die at an early age. Others, well, we just wish they would have. And then there was Stu. This is his story. Stu Clark was born into a farming family in rural Arkansas. Times were tough on the farm. Crops were heavily dependent on the bipolar Arkansas weather, and the livestock didn't always heed the Collie family's commands. Stu was always a bit different, a bit of an outcast, and had bigger dreams than life on the farm. One day, after a fight with his father about nipping the livestock too hard, he kissed his mother on the cheek and set out for the big city. A couple days' train ride later, he reached the Big Apple, New York City, and found the place he never knew he always needed. His real home, CBGB's.
First time Stu walked through those doors of CBGB's right off that Arkansas train, I thought, oi, who the hell is this bumpkin? And then I watched him walk right over and hike his leg on the mic stand and thought, that'll do, Collie. That'll do.
It wasn't very long before Stu was top dog at CBGB.
He puts the rough in Rough Collie.
He'd become fast friends with all of the Ramone brothers, Debbie Harry of Blondie, David Johansen of the New York Dolls, and David Byrne of the Talking Heads, though even Stu thought that he was a bit off. Stu first enjoyed the late 70s New York punk scene as a fan, moshing at shows featuring all of his punk buddies, but it wasn't long before Patti Smith convinced him he should form his own band. Yeah, I was actually there when Patti told him. She said, you know how they call country music 3 chords and the truth? Well, my dear boy, punk music's not that far off. It's just 3 chords and you puke. So Stu found some other punks and formed a band of his own. He first added bassist Benny Spivey. And then came Zelda Harris on drums. Stu would play guitar and take lead vocals. They weren't the best musicians, but they were punk, so they didn't have to be. They decided on calling the band the Cussin' Collies, which is a great punk name, but it immediately caused some consternation within the group, as Benny and Zelda weren't collies. Benny was a coonhound, and Zelda didn't know what the hell she was. The Cussin' Collies released 2 low-budget but successful among the punk community albums in the late 70s, their debut Pee on the Patriarchy, and their sophomore release Sniffin'. Rolling Stone magazine gave both albums a 3 out of 5-star rating, calling them music. And Dog Fancy magazine hailed the albums as masterpieces and signs of a dog renaissance in pop culture. But then things got weird. Iggy Pop basically created punk music in the late 60s with his band The Stooges and was hailed as the godfather of punk for his role. Stu began to let stardom go to his head and wanted to challenge Iggy for punk music's supremacy and started a feud that nearly tore punk apart. So everybody knew that Iggy Pop was like the original punk, but Stu felt like he was a better punk, and this kind of led to a strange feud between Iggy and Stu, where in one of the strangest moments in punk history, you know, the Stooges' big hit early on was, I wanna be your dog. I wanna be your dog. Well, Stu took that and he changed it to, all the lyrics were the same, but he changed it to, I wanna be your stooge. I wanna be your stooge. I don't know how he got away with it, how it wasn't copyright infringement. Maybe it has something to do with how it was completely done in Barks.
Stu was the baddest of them all. He made Iggy Pop look like a grade schooler.
The Iggy Pop feud pretty much died off when the Cussin' Collies tragically did. It all came to a crashing end in late 1979 when Benny Spivey died of a trazodone overdose. Shortly after that, Zelda left the punk scene behind to be a Reaganite Republican, and Stu was forced to enter rehab for a crippling cocaine addiction. After the breakup of the Cussin Collies, Zelda's political career thrived, becoming a New York State Senator for multiple terms and running for the Republican presidential ticket in the 2000 election before losing out to George W. Bush. After his stint in rehab, Stu lost interest in performing music, but didn't lose his passion for music altogether. He wound up back in his home state of Arkansas and ran a record shop in Little Rock for multiple decades before giving it up in favor of owning his own CBD shop. In 2022, there was talk of a potential reunion between the living members of the Cussin Collies, and it even went so far as a face-to-face meeting that our cameras caught. While Stu could never record an album with Zelda, who he now referred to as the man, he did decide it was time to get back into the record studio and show these young pups a thing or two about the way punk music is supposed to be. He decided his first solo release would be titled Melancollie, and his fans, both old and new, are panting in anticipation of its release.